Hey, sixth graders. This video is for Wednesday, April 29th. Happy Hump Day. Hope you guys are doing well. Today, you're going to be continuing on in your Tuck Everlasting packets, reviewing some of the things that you read in the book. And so these materials are for you to reflect now that you have read the whole story. You can sort of see from a bird's eye view rather than some of the work that we did as you moved through it, which helped you process as you went along. So to start today, you're going to be working on Plot Mountain. And I don't want you to overdo it. You don't have to take this doesn't have to be like 5 sentences per square, but 1 or 2 sentences more than just like a word or two. So take a little bit of time with this. I really want you to take a minute, read this through, and then think about what you've read in Tuck Everlasting. So what you're going to do here is think about how did the story move through the plot. And we know, we've talked about this before in class, that most stories follow this pattern where things build and build and build up to the point of climax, and then they sort of fall and resolve. And that happens in the story of Tuck Everlasting. So I want you to tell me a little bit about what did we learn in the exposition part of the book. That's when we're getting background information, finding out about characters' identities and motivations. And then there's the rising action. That's sort of what pushes us to the highest moment of the story. What is it that's building? What is in rising action? That's usually where you see the primary conflict and you begin to understand the nature of the conflict in the story. When you get to climax, this is the big moment when somebody has to make an important decision or when some action occurs that can't be taken back. Then you have falling action. This is sort of the results of the climax. How does that play out with the characters? And then the resolution. What do you learn at the end of the story and how are things left? So take some time to think through this. This is one of the assignments that you'll be uploading in Google Classroom. Additionally, and this might seem similar, that's why I wanted to go over them with you because they're actually a little bit different, but the other thing I'd like you to do is this story timeline and just to explain how this is different. So in the Plot Mountain, what you're thinking about is sort of the flow of the story. And in the timeline, you're really using 2 skills. One is sequencing. So I want you to be able to think about what happened first, next, then. It's important to be able to think about the order that things happen. But more than that, this is specifically asking you for 8 boxes, which actually this is kind of tricky because what I'm asking you to do here is to think of 8 sort of components of the story that you could use to tell. If you could only tell this story in 8 sentences, how would you tell it? So using these boxes, I would like you to walk through that and kind of think about it. Again, I'm not looking to see just one word in each box, but a sentence in each one to sort of tell me how the story progresses. And then we have, this is something that I think is really critical. We've talked about this once earlier in the year, and we will talk about it again next year in 7th grade, but thinking about the nature of conflict. And they lay out for you 4 different kinds of conflict, all of which are in this story, and actually all of which are in most stories. So the first kind of conflict is man versus man. And man is just a stand-in word for person. So this could be a woman versus a man or a woman versus a woman. But man versus man is when 2 people are locked in a conflict with each other. Man versus nature. So this is any kind of conflict where a human is in conflict with the natural world. This is like, I don't know if you guys read last year, Hatchet, the story of the guy who gets in a plane crash and sort of has to fight his way through. So that's a big man versus nature story. But there are elements of conflict between people and the created world in the story of Tuck Everlasting. Man versus society. So not necessarily one specific person, but rules, conventions, procedures, expectations, the way that people operate together. What conflicts are there between one character and the whole of society? And then man versus self. And again, man is a stand-in for a person. This could be any character in the story, man or woman. Where do you see someone who is thinking 2 things at the same time, or they want to do one thing, but they also think maybe they should do another thing, and there's this conflict in their own heart. So what I'd like you to do on the bottom of this page is to tell me the type of conflict that you see, and then the example from the story. Where do you see these? And you can do more, but I want you to do at least one of each of the 4 kinds. So you should have at least 4 of these filled in, one of each type of conflict from the story. Again, please write legibly and take the time to write a complete sentence or 2 and not just a 1 or 2 word answer. And then finally today, you're thinking about the setting. Tell me a little bit about where it takes place. You can draw a picture if you want to take extra time and just enjoy that with some art supplies, you can. And then tell me a little bit about how you drew this. Now, you'll note that in your Google Classroom, some of these I've asked for you to submit there, but I'm hoping you're not going to be throwing away your packets. I hang on to these, and there'll be a time in a couple of weeks where we're going to do some swap outs with different books and stuff. And your parents can turn them in so I can look through and see all of the work that I haven't had a chance to see yet. So that's where we're at in Tuck Everlasting. You're also continuing to work on your spelling words today, so make sure that you're on track to do your spelling test Friday. And then our big project this week, you don't have any new reading. Obviously, you'll be using your book to go back and finish your packet work. But your big job is writing your persuasive essay about the most important lesson in Tuck Everlasting. We went over that on the Zoom call, and I posted all those resources for you yesterday. If you have any questions as you begin writing, please do email me and let me know. I got some great questions today. Always happy to see that. Happy Hump Day. Hope you guys are hanging in there. Bye-bye.